Welcome back to LivAnimated.com. Let's learn something new. Last time we left off, we were talking about finishing up the hand skinning to our character. We did that. Now what we're able to do is load in our character through the ARTv2 tool system and be able to start animating or exporting and doing whatever we need to do. We're going to talk about mocap and getting that onto the rig as well. But in today's video, we're going to go through and make our custom picker for just the body. We haven't skinned the face yet. That's going to be an additional video. But I want to be able to get you guys moving forward in case you're not worried about the face. You can just jump right in and start animating and getting the character exported. We're going to focus on bringing in our character through the tool system. We're going to go over making our picker. Then we're going to export our character out through the tool system and then put it in a pose so that we can use that pose as an animation file when we go into Unreal. So let's get started. Let's open up Maya and open up the ART2 at the top of the screen. What we're going to do here is we are going to, now that we're able to, we're going to load our character in that we saved from our last file. So if you go add rig for animation, go down to where you named the category that it's under and then select the character, and you'll see the image of the character come up. Click add selected. All right, your character should be loaded. Everything should look fine. Let's go on over to Windows just to make sure if you got the same pop-up that I just did. You want to make sure that your settings are optimal for animating. So, well, animating for what we're doing, which is going to be 30 frames per second. So go to settings, 24 frames, change that to 30. 30 frames per second, Z up, that's fine. Click save. All right. So now what we're going to do, instead of using the base picker that comes with this tool, we're going to make our own picker so you can get used to creating how you want your controls laid out. And you can make them laid out however you want. You can add images and everything to the background of this. But we're going to focus on just laying out the actual joint picker or control picker in this video. So what you want to do, just like it says here, no picker exists. Do you want to create one or use an existing one? We want to create one. So click on create. And it's asking you, is it for the mesh that you have loaded in the scene? Yes, it is. Click yes. And so now what we're going to do is add in each body part. Now we can stay away from the face picker, but that's going to be cool too, because once we get the face skinned up, we'll have a nice picker already ready for it. We don't have to go in and make any crazy custom GUIs or anything like that. So click on torso and click add selected to canvas. This is our torso control. This is going to control this whole torso part of the character from the pelvis up. So we can leave that like this for now. So we can do left leg. Here's our left leg. To control the scale, you just want to have your mouse hovered over inside of the marquee tool and just use the wheel up and down. So you may want to scale it down just to make sure everything fits in the window. And we're going to do the left arm and the left fingers. So what we can do here is we can select the fingers, put them up in the corner, select the arm. Oh, they're linked. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do it like this then. Let's put this over here. You can also, I believe, rotate this. How do you rotate? How do you rotate? But for now, let's just leave it like this. And now let's put our hands over in the corner. Get them out the way. The head. This will have your head and neck controls. We don't need any of the joints for the mouth or nose, eyebrow, anything like that. Leg right. Scale that down and put that right there. And then arm right. And you can move this over to where you want it as well. And let's get these finger controls up here. You can also change the color. I think Some of the ones I've seen, they'll split it where it's like right and left, but you can obviously see if you did everything on the left, and everything's on the left over here as well. So you'll look, this is your left control, right control, right control, left control, right? So it's fine. Next thing we want to do is add our root. This is going to be our master controller, our root node, and our node right here, which is our one of the other movers we have. Everything else, you can just close this now. So now this is here. Now we should be able to save this unless it's already saved. Yeah, let's save it. So you can click save right here. Make sure you save it in where it says pickers. It'll pop up for you by default. Just save it there to be safe. There's no other reason to have it in another folder. This is all coming out of the ARTv2 system that's on your machine. No need to do anything crazy, and you'll never forget where it's at because it'll just bring you here by default. So we want to name this after our character. And my character is base female mesh. So let's do that. All right. And then click save picker. And there you go. There's your picker. What we're going to do later, once we get the face set up, we're going to have to come back and create another one of these that has the face. We may want to just do it where we have two, where we have the body and the face, so we can work independently and not have too much cluttered on the screen on here, which will make it difficult to pick. So now that we have this all set up, it's no need to save your file. This is all brought in for animation. We already went over what these buttons are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to export our rigged character. Now, when you come to export animations, you're going to export your animations through here, which is what I showed you before, so you can export the motion. I'll go over this again real quick. Let's just say we have animation on our character. Let's make sure our timeline is correct. We'll say 0 to 30, right? So this is our timeline, 0 to 30. Export. You do not need your meshes, and you do not need the custom attributes. You go here and you go to add sequence. We're saying that this is our idle. So let's just create this now, and we'll replace it later with an idle. We'll just put the arms down and put the character in a more relaxed state, and we'll use that as our idle animation when we go into Unreal. So we're going to save this. We're going to go to where our character is saved. I recommend going to where your character is saved and having an export folder. And in the export folder, you're only going to put your exports. So in here, let's name it with the character name, just so we are clear. In case you have multiple characters, you don't want to have 5 or 6 different idols in here and then not knowing where it goes. You can also abbreviate your name. This is when naming convention becomes important when you're working with files, in the industry or at work. But because I'm at home, let's just work on keeping everything consistent. So we'll say this is base female mesh idle. And we'll save this out. It will ask you, that was just to save the name and the location. What you want to do before you do this is you want to save your file to make sure that everything is how you want it to be. And you have to save it before you hit export. So in an example, if you made changes to this file and you didn't save it and then you export, it's going to revert back to whatever the last save was and export that file. So you want to be sure to save your file before you do export. So as you can see, this file hasn't been saved. So who knows what's going to happen? It may not even export because it doesn't have a save file to pull from. So let's save this file. And we're going to save this as our idle so that we know when we come back to start working on this, this is the file we can open up. We won't have to bring in our character by adding rig to animation. We can just open up the idle animation file. So if we go here, these are all our rig and skin. So let's make an animation folder. And in here, we're going to do base female mesh idle. And leave it like that. And this should be a MA. Yes, it should be MA file. Save as. There's our file. Now we can export our file. So this is asking you to make sure you saved and everything is consistent with how you want it to be. Okay. Now it's exporting out the animation file. We'll come back and update this after it's done, after we export our character. Exporting your character for its skinned rig pose for Unreal to use as the base is different than exporting it out of here. So let me show you how to do that right quick. What you're going to want to do is go to File and New Scene. Once you're in your new scene, you can also close this. Once you're in your new scene, we want to go to ARTv2. We want to go to Edit Rig. We want to select our character. Edit selected. Don't save any changes. There's no changes in the file that you opened if you opened up a new scene anyway. So now it's going to open up your scene, but you're going to get a different box over here to work with. And that box is going to allow you to, there we go. This box is going to allow you to export skeletal meshes. So in order to do that, we're going to click Export Skeletal Meshes. It says, please make sure any current file is saved before continuing. This is our base female mesh. Yes, it's saved. Click OK. Now there's an issue with the tool where you cannot export directly through the tool. What we're going to do is we're going to export through Maya's export settings for FBX. We're going to use 2018 FBX, and we're going to select a few nodes in there, or make sure everything is selected as it should be before we export. Exporting right out of the tool kind of throws up some errors, so we don't want to do that. But what you want to do is you do not want to close this. You want to just sit this over to the side. You want to open up your outliner, and you want to select your mesh and select your joints. So once you have your mesh and your joints selected, you want to go up here to File, Export Selection. Let's click on the box to see what settings are in there, just to make sure those are good. It's going to be FBX, that's correct. Everything else should be default. There's no reason to change anything else in here. So we're going to do Export Selection. Go to the location that we chose before for our exports. Once you navigate there, we're going to call this base female mesh skin. Let's do rig. Let's do rig. RIG. Now let's go over to our settings over here on the side and make sure we have everything correct. So we have smooth mesh, we have tangent and binormals, and we have smoothing groups. That looks fine. Animation, that looks fine. We are not exporting 250 frames of anything. So let's actually change that to be like 10. It doesn't need to be, this is our rig file, this is our skin file. We don't need to have all of that on there. And we actually don't need to have animation on there, but we want to keep it turned on because it's not going to hurt anything by it being turned on, and you don't have to worry about turning it on later. Deform models, yes. Skin, yes, yes. Constraints, no, there's no constraints. There's only the joints. We don't need the camera. We don't need the lights. All this looks correct. Z is up. That's correct. ASCII file, that's correct. So FBX 2018, correct. All right, so all you need to do is click Export Selection. All right, so usually this won't be a problem. Unable to find bind pose for root, pelvis, spine 1, spine 2. What does this one say? FBX plugin not supported. That's fine. That's not a big deal. Skin definition number 8. So let's look at this right quick. It should all be fine. Those errors you should be able to ignore. I just want to rotate this and make sure everything is skinned properly. It looks like it is. Okay. So yeah, you can just ignore what those are, and we'll see what happens when we bring it in. It shouldn't be a problem. All right, so now we have our skin pose, and now what you can do is you can close this window. It's going to take you back to your control rig version of this. We don't need to save anything or do anything else. We're going to actually open up our idle that we had. So let's go back and open up the idle animation that we have from before. In our animation. And we're going to click idle. So we're going to go open. You can also start with a new file too if you choose, but this should be fine. So now we're in our new file. We want to actually close this and open up an ARTv2. We want to actually go to the animation tools. So there's our picker. It's loaded by default. We can close our outliner. We're still 0 and 30. What we want to do now is I like to change the hands and arms to be FK instead of IK. We talked about it before with the floaty hands and stuff like that. Get accustomed to working with FK if you don't need IK. It's going to be better for your animation quality. So how you can do that is you click on this S right here, and this will bring up settings, and you want to go mode 0. And as you can see, if you look at the model, you have a version of the arm that is all FK control. This one is still IK control. So we want to change that one too. So click over here on the S for the left settings, turn that to 0. Some people like to use the IK control for the spine. I'm not really a huge fan of doing that because I want to make sure I have control over everything and not interpolating anything through how the motion of the spine works. So you can click right here on the S near the torso, and you can turn that to 0 as well. So the only thing we have IK on is our shoulders. These are kind of IK still, these arrows, and the feet. The feet are still IK. So if we select the feet, you can see it's still IK. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to save this file. Now let's bring the arms down. And we want this to be in a pose that is different than the T pose, only so we can double check and make sure our animation is playing correctly on our rig when we bring it in. So if we go into selecting the character's upper arm, we should be able to select both of them. Press E for rotation, and we're going to go on the Y axis, which is the green axis right here that you see. And we're just going to rotate the arms down. And you want to set a key. So you want to press S. Other thing you want to do as well is you want to go here to the select rig controls, and we want to select everything and hit S and set a key for it. Now we don't need to select the joint, the prefix joint controls controls. We don't want to select those controls because we don't need to set keys on them. They're not rigged to anything. We're not going to be keying them right now. So you want to select torso, root, leg, arm, head. I'm just going to scroll down to make sure I'm not missing anything. And you want to select the breast. Those are different. So those are skin. So you might as well select them. And we can also put those controls on here in our picker. So we're going to do that too. So select controls and hit S. This ensures that we have a key on everything, which is what we want. So let's go to edit, and let's see, can I add? Oh, I made it where I had to do it over. Interesting. Let's see. Maybe edit doesn't work. Add comment box mode. Let's add our picker back. There's our picker. Let's see, can we add other things to it? It doesn't look like we can. What is this? Change picker selection mode or normal mode. It doesn't look like we can add something to this. We might have to make a new one. Edit doesn't look like it's, oh, let's see, what is this? This is how you can change the background with an image. Add module pickers, current canvas. Add a modules picker to the current. Oh, there we go. Okay. So you want to use the paint palette. So pick on the paint palette and let's scroll down to the breast. You can do breast, add to canvas, and here's a selector for it. So this was our left breast. So you can do this right here. And then we'll do the right one. You can do this right here. Perfect. All right. So if you select it, you see it selects it. Great. So that's going to be cool when we get to working on the face. Let's save this again so it's updated, and just select the one you already created and just overwrite it. All right, awesome. So let's change the character a little bit more just to make sure it's in the pose that we can see that it's different. The arms being down will make it different. But let's change this up just a little bit. So if you're new to animating, what I'm doing right now is I'm selecting the controls that I want, and I'm selecting either going to be W, which is the transition to the movement transforms, the gizmo for the movement transforms, or E, the gizmo for the rotation transforms. So what you can do here is you can take her feet and start to move them out. Start to move them out so that, she can be in a more relaxed pose. Set a key. Same thing here. Move this one a little bit forward and up. Set a key. We can take this and move the hips so it's not so square. Change where the balance is at a little bit. And you'll get used to this and moving around a lot faster as you continue to work with it. And then we'll take the spine. Another cool thing you can do is add this mesh. Oh, here we go. It should be already added. No, it's not. You can add this mesh to a layer so that you don't select it by accident. Or you can turn it off up here where you don't select it by accident. So let's do that just so we don't select it. So the only thing you'll select now, if you turn all of these off and you just do controls, you only select controls. All right, so let's do that. And now if you go back to your front view, we can actually go in here and start rotating her so she's more facing forward. All right. I'm just gonna play with the arms a little bit more by, same thing, selecting the arms, making this go back, trying to put it in more of a neutral pose. Just have some fun and play around with the pose. It can be anything for right now. This is so we can just test and see how things look. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything. This is just for a test. This also helps you get accustomed to the rig. Once we get into more of the animation techniques and silhouettes and working with negative space for our poses, we'll start playing around with the rig before we start doing any type of animation, so that you get accustomed to your rig. Now, this is if you're following along with me, or this can be if you're just working on your own thing. Everything still applies, so it should be fine. But yeah, just try to get your character in a more neutral pose. And then once you have that pose, we're going to take that pose, and I'm going to make the hands a little bit more neutral too. We're going to take that pose and we're going to export it, and then that'll be our idle. So you should be working on your pose right now. How you move around the camera, just in case. Hold down Alt and middle mouse will let you pan. Alt and right click will help you zoom, and Alt and left click lets you tumble around the character. If you press F, it'll zoom into what you're looking at, and it'll also rotate around whatever the selection is. So those are some good tips for when you're working on animating stuff. So we're going to work on the left hand right now. We also will get the clothes that comes with this character in. Some people may or may not have clothes. Their character may already be fully clothed as a part of their rig or part of the mesh. Then, you know, this should still be beneficial too, because we're going to have to go back in and do some skinning. I also want to know from this how the twist bones look. I mean, I don't have a twist bones, but you can see what it does to the wrist. So we will go back and add twist bones. So when we go back to do the face, we're going to update our rig a little bit. We can still use the skinning that we did for the body, but we'll have to just touch up the skinning that we have here once we add those new joints. But it's going to be ideal for us to put twist bones in there for the wrists. So let's just continue making our pose the way we want. All right, almost done. I'm just adjusting the fingers just to make it look a little bit more relaxed. And this is where the picker comes in handy. You can pick. I normally pick things in the viewport, but this is how you can. You know, you saw me clicking a second ago. This is how you can pick your stuff and not worry about if you're selected or not. You know to be selected. All right, that's good. So what we want to do now is we want to set keys at the beginning and end. We're going to go back to our rig select controls. Select just these and the breast controls. Select controls, hit S, go to frame 30, hit S again a few times. Now this is rigged, skinned, animated, quote unquote. It has keys, so therefore we're going to say it's animated. But this is just our pose so it can, you know, have a better pose to work with when you see it in the engine. What we're going to do now is save it. Save your file. Let's go to export our file. Again, export settings. You can turn these off. You can do export sequence, add sequence, 0 to 30, 0 to 30. You could have more than 30 frames. You just want this to match for your start and end frames. Now let's go to where we save our export files. And we want to, you can actually grab that file. Don't save over it, but grab that file and just change this to idle. So to be base female mesh idle, and then export. And then everything is still saved. You don't have like an asterisk next to that. Click export. And now it's exporting your file based on the keys that we placed on the file. So it shouldn't take that long because there's only like two keys per joint. And then you don't want to click anything. You want to wait for that box to disappear. Once it's disappeared, you're good to go. Now you should be able to close out Maya, and you want to open up, Epic Games and launch the engine so that we can start bringing the files in and see what they look like. So I already am updated to 4.22. You should already be updated 4.22. If you followed the other videos, you know, I spoke about what you need to download, and I also provided the links of where you can download it. So we're going to click launch. Launch is going to take you to, if it's your first time in Unreal, there's a bunch of resources that are online that you can follow along with. So I'm gonna go through this quick, but I'm gonna do it in a way where you can understand and follow along. So we're just waiting on it to load right now. It usually takes like a minute to load it, literally. But you're loading a lot of stuff. So what we want to do is we want to go into our third person. Well, you can go into any one of these you want. You can go into first or third for what we're going to be working on. Let's go into third person. And then let's save where this is going to be saved. You can select your folder that you want to save it in and name it whatever you want. So I'll just do base female mesh, and I'll select my folder. It should still be roughly in the same spot where I have the LivAnimated, my files. We can make an Unreal folder. LivAnimated, Unreal. All right, that's where we are anyway. LivAnimated, Unreal. All right, select folder. Desktop console is what you want to select. Maximum quality, no starter content, or you can do starter content. We'll just do starter content just in case. This may be the file we keep going back and forth in to test things. Might as well have it there. It's not going to hurt anything. So create project. It's going to take a second to create the project. Once the project is created, we're going to navigate in Windows Explorer to where our export folder is, and then we're going to create folders within the project and then import in our 2 exported files that we have. So once you get into Unreal, it can be very intimidating because it's a whole new piece of software. If you don't know how to use it, I recommend doing the tutorials and going through the documentation that is on the Unreal documentation page. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Show and Hide Resources panel so we can have our workflow. Whatever you click on here is the main folder, and then it shows you what's in that folder. So if you open this up, these are the same folders that are here. So there you go. What we're going to do now is, this is the starter content. So it has a mannequin folder. It has geometry, which is all this stuff. And I'm just left clicking on everything in here. You know, I can delete that. You don't need that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to add a folder. So you can right click or you can click add new. So we're going to say new folder, and our new folder, well, we don't need to be in the mannequin folder. So actually this is a good step. Let's delete this folder. Delete. We want to select content, and then under content, we want to create a new folder. This new folder is going to be base female, or no, let's just do character. Base character. In our base character, we want to have another folder, which is going to be animation. Open that up, that's fine. We can also have another folder that is rig. So now in our rig, let's go ahead and open up Windows Explorer, and let's navigate to where our files are located. Export. It did not save the idle animation, it looks like. That is strange. So we have our rig right here. So we can click drag that into our rig folder. You're going to get a set of options. Do we want to bring in the skeletal mesh? Yes. Do we want to import mesh? Yes. This is a brand new import, so the answer is yes. If this was an animation that we're bringing in, then you can just select no to importing the mesh. And then for a skeletal mesh, you would go here and select this rig file. So let's select import all. This will take a moment. This import, since the FBX is going to bring in your model, it's going to bring in your textures, your rig. It's going to bring in all this stuff. All right. And so what we're going to probably want to do is in the material file, we're going to want to reset this up. It may be set up correctly, but sometimes it's not. There's other maps that aren't getting brought in here that we do have access to for this character, which are normal maps and emissives and stuff like that. So right now we're not talking about that for the character. So, but that is something you want to bring in if you want to make sure your character is looking as best as possible, if you've already spent the time making all the textures, making everything you wanted for it. So I did not see the animation file. So let's go back and look at that and see. This did not export. Let's save this. I'm back in Maya right now. Animation sequence. Let's go back and save where our file is going to be located. Yeah, it didn't save it. Let's try that one more time. Maybe there's some options that are not selected. Export. Click export again. Ooh, wait. Let's not click export. Let's go into our FBX settings and make sure everything is turned on that needs to be turned on. So export selection. Yeah, let's go to our FBX settings, export selection right here. Let's look at this again and make sure everything is there we go, referenced assets content. I think that needs to be turned on because we are referencing our character in, which means if it exported, it wouldn't export anything because it wouldn't think anything's in the file. I think we need to just turn that on. We have animation 0 to 30. That's our timeline, so that's fine. Skins, that's fine. We also want to no cameras, no constraints, no lights. Units automatic, that's fine, Everything else looks good. We just wanted to check back on this right here. We don't need to triangulate it. All right, so let's try this one more time. FBX, make sure we're in our file structure that we want to be in, which is export, and we want to change this to be idle. All right, everything looks good. So let's just cancel that. So that's good. Let's save our file. We already have where we want to save everything. Now let's click export. And let's see if that changes things. If it doesn't, then it may be looking for that bind pose that we got an error for. And if that's the case, then we need to look at it. All right, see, we didn't get any issues that time. I think it's because we need to have that referenced in. Let's see if it created the file. Go back to your Windows, and it did not. Interesting. Now, why is this not exporting? That's interesting. This file, this is in beta. This does work when it works. Let's look and see what could be the issue here. Okay, what I found that we can do is actually select our model and export selection. Once we go to export selection, you can see my file is already here because I've already tried this once to see if it worked. Select this so we have our name. The only things I have different in here is I unselected everything except for referenced asset content and selection sets. Animations turned on, baked animations turned on, deformed models, skin and blend shapes. We don't need that on because we're just taking the joint data. That's all we really care about. Skeleton definitions and constraints. Those are off. Connections, that's fine. Z 2018. Export selection. Yes. Complex animation baked 1. So everything's baked. It didn't bake these movers, which is fine. It's not going to matter. So now when we go back to Unreal, as you can see, I brought the file in here and it worked fine. Again, click and drag it from your folder structure, which is from here. So if you have your, a Windows Explorer, click and drag the idle over in here. It should just update that. It said you re-imported it. Yeah, successful re-imported. Fine. And then all I did here was I clicked it. I dragged it to the scene. Click play. And you can go right up to it. And there's the character in the scene that's in my idle pose that I put on there. Now it's hovering above ground. That's something different. That's something that you can change if you have your character in an actual setup in here. You can actually change where the level is going to be, the height of it, where it's going to be. So there you go. So there's the character put into the environment, which is right here. You can also go in here, same, hit W and E. E is for rotation. Let me rotate her towards the light. And then there she is right there. Now this level doesn't have, great lighting in it or nothing, but there's her character. Let's see if she's probably just hovering above the ground. Hit W. Oh no, it's just off. So you can turn off snap to grid. And then you can position her on the floor a little bit better. You can also hit F, so you can go around her as well, just like in Maya, the same thing. So there she is. I'm holding down the right trigger and moving my WSAD as if you're playing a video game. There she is right there. All right, cool. So that was our goal, to get our character into the Unreal Engine with our animation. We had to change up how we're going to do the animation. I'm still going to do some looking into seeing what their actual problem is. But for right now, we can just select the mesh and do it, because when you export the mesh, it's going to grab the joints by default. And so everything is in there. The other thing you're going to notice that we didn't see, let's go back to animation. If we delete this, let's do a force delete. Let me bring this character in. You see, it took it back to his T-pose because that's all it has for its rig file. But let's bring this character back in because I want to show you how what I did. Idle. So select and drag your idle in. You're going to get these options. These options are going to be, how do you want to bring it in? We don't need to import the mesh. We just want the skeleton data. So now you go into skeleton, and you can select, the base female or whatever your character's name is, rig. And once you do that, import all, and there you go. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to save these so we don't have to re-import these again into this project. So if you go to animation, there's your character. There's your character right there as an animation. Now, going in and creating blueprints and creating the animation states, that's something we'll do later. But for right now, this is just to see your character in here. And if we want to see if the animation actually plays, let's try that out too right now. Let's just, since we're going to be going down this path, let's go in here and let's do like just a little bit of shoulder movement, some breathing. This is only 30 frames, so it's going to look kind of awkward, but we just want to make sure it's bringing in animation. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going in and setting keys on frame 10 of just some motion on the character, just some slight motion on the character. So she's not so static. All right. So I'm going to save that as my idle. Again, let's select our mesh. File, export selected. Pick your idle. Export selection. Replace it? Yes. All right. Everything got exported. Close this. Minimize that. Now we're back into Unreal. Click on animation. We're going to open up our Windows Explorer file that we have. You see the timestamp is updated. So now we're going to just import over this file. So what we're going to do is select and drag. And because the names are the same, it's going to, like it says right here, successfully re-imported. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click play and go over to into this character. And see, there's the animation. So this will work like this. We don't have to use that exporter from the tool. It looks like it's kind of bugging out. So, you know, it kind of sucks, but there's the animation. So this will work for what we need to do. Looks good to me. All right. I hope you learned something new. There was a video I shot before this, so I need to comp this new part into the video. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like I said in the other video, I didn't want to stay in it too long until I figured something out. You know, I got in here and I was just like, let me just select it and see if I can export the mesh. I could. It worked. So I'm going to put this at the back end of the video. And then that's the video for this lesson. I'm actually going to take out some of the end of the previous video because it was me just sitting here thinking about what I could do. I wasn't really clicking on anything. So it's like a lot of idle dead space. So I'm just going to cut that out. Yeah, and that's it. It kind of sucks it doesn't work right off the bat like it does when I use it regularly. But I'll still look into it and see what's going on. But we can export, as you see here. We are able to see the character moving and taking on the animation. So we should be fine. So hope you learned something new. Thanks. And I'll see you again. Bye.